felt the brunt of Japanese bombs, but their land troops have now breached defenses and are on the island. British forces are now taking countermeasures to prevent the invaders from taking over Singapore town. Residents are advised to be vigilant and stay indoors unless absolutely necessary.
The British didn't even realize that the bombing of Singapore's northwestern coastline on the night of 8th February was the start of the assault on their impregnable fortress. After traversing the Malay Peninsula on bicycles, Japanese troops crossed the Johor Straits in boats and landed in the northwest of Singapore. Their Malayan campaign was defined by speed, surprise, and savagery. And it was no different in Singapore. The Japanese took Kranji after a miscommunicated order saw Allied troops retreating. Tengah Airfield and Bukit Timah fell soon after, as the Japanese blitzed through the island. The British had 85,000 men, almost 3 times the 30,000 Japanese troops. The defenders had more ammunition and supplies too, but they had grossly underestimated their enemy. Sweeping through Pasir Panjang Ridge on 14th February, the Japanese then gave Singapore a first taste of their brutality. They stormed Alexandra Hospital and, with complete disregard for Red Cross brassards, bayoneted officers, medical staff, even patients. The Japanese troops herded patients and personnel into small rooms in the hospital's outhouse. Several did not survive the night in those cramped conditions, while others were executed. British hubris was punished, and Singapore paid a hefty price.
The battle for Singapore began on the night of the 8th of February, when General Yamashita's invading Japanese forces bombarded the island's coastline and crossed the Johor Straits in boats. After 7 days of battle, the unthinkable has come to pass. The impregnable fortress has fallen. Singapore is now in Japanese hands. This, in the words of British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, is the worst disaster and largest capitulation in British history.
Percival's final telegram was sent on 15th February, and its simplicity was stark. It read, "Owing to losses from enemy action, water, petrol, food, and ammunition practically finished. Unable therefore to continue the fight any longer. The British capitulation was both shocking and humiliating. They had lost to an enemy deemed incompetent in battle, and given up what was billed as the Empire's greatest fortress in the East." Percival walked with drooping shoulders to the Ford factory at Bukit Timah, the image of a broken man. The white flag and Union Jack were as limp as the men who carried them into the Ford boardroom. Yamashita kept Percival waiting for an hour, but once the steely-eyed Japanese general sat at the table, he made his intention clear. He demanded an immediate, unconditional surrender. Percival asked to delay a decision till the following morning, but the request was met by unflinching eyes. Yamashita flatly refused. Yes or no were only words he wanted to hear. With a meek yes, the Gibraltar of the East was now in Japanese hands. 16,000 British, 14,000 Australian, and 32,000 Indian soldiers would start a journey of pain and suffering in several POW camps, including Fort Silosa. And that journey started with a 36-hour march through the center of Singapore to captivity in Changi Prison. The Japanese renamed Singapore Shonanto, meaning light of the south. Its inhabitants will plunge into darkness.
POWs on the Japanese. Of course I was scared. The Japanese soldiers were brutal to them. There were army officers who conducted themselves in the most despicable manner possible. Our leaders made us believe that we were so superior to all others in everything. Our responsibility lies in the collective praise of the people. We committed those leaders. There were army officers who conducted themselves in the most despicable manner possible. Our leaders.
On August the 6th, 1945, the United States unleashed the atomic bomb. It was the first ever nuclear attack on any country. The B-29 superfortress Enola Gay flew over Hiroshima and released the bomb, dubbed Little Boy. The city was destroyed, an estimated 80,000 killed instantly.
When Japan still refused to bow, the Americans unleashed a second atomic bomb, named Fat Man, on Nagasaki on August 9th. In a flash, another 70,000 perished. This time, Japan's Emperor Hirohito ordered his government to end the war. In a radio broadcast on August 15th, the Emperor announced Japan's surrender to the Allies. 3 days later in Singapore, 300 Japanese officers and a platoon of soldiers committed harakiri. They could not accept defeat, but most of the Japanese occupying force resigned to their fate. The war in the Asia-Pacific had come to a close. On September 2nd, Japan formally surrendered to the Supreme Commander for the Allied Powers, General Douglas MacArthur, on board the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. On September 4th, 1945, General Seishiro Itagaki, commander of the Japanese 7th Area Army in Malaya, and Vice Admiral Shigeru Fukudome of the 1st Southern Expeditionary Fleet were summoned to the HMS Sussex in the Singapore harbor. They were ordered by British Admiral Cedric Holland and Generals Robert Manser and Philip Christensen to surrender their troops in Southeast Asia.
Bilisan niyo.
It was September 12th, 1945, and there was joy in the air at the Municipal Hall in Singapore. The bands of the East Indies fleet played Rule Britannia as the artillery guns fired a salute. General Itagaki led Vice Admiral Fukudome and 5 other Japanese officers to the surrender ceremony. Escorted by guards, they were cheered by crowds who came to witness the end of Japanese rule. Itagaki was representing Field Marshal Hisaichi Terauchi, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Japanese Forces in the southern regions. Brutal torture and executions were coming to an end. After taking their seats, Lord Louis Mountbatten, Supreme Allied Commander of Southeast Asia, sternly said that this was a non-negotiated surrender. It will be unconditional. The Japanese will submit to the superior force that is now massed here in Singapore. As his officers sat in silence, General Itagaki signed the countries that participated in the war. After dismissing them, Lord Mountbatten in Southeast Asia was in British hands again.
Yes. The history of Singapore, modern history.
Sorry ass DJ.